So, how long have you been teaching in special needs children?
This is my 11th year.
11 years. Wow. What made you choose the teaching profession, in particular teaching special needs children?
Ever since I was in elementary school, I was always like a buddy of students who just needed help, and I always loved it, and it was just kind of my calling, I guess, just what I always enjoyed to do, and I just like helping other people and them be able to find their own successes, and so that's what I enjoy the most.
How about recess? Bye.
No, look, not recess time. There's snacks on the table.
That's really beautiful. How your idea towards teaching changed with each passing year of the experience?
Have my ideas.
Yeah, towards teaching.
I would say yes, because it's kind of hard not to, just because as our district changes, or like views, or where you see focuses, or even just the kids that you get in front of you, like it's whatever their needs are is kind of where the focus is. Like I might need to be more structured one year, might need to not be as structured, or let kids have more hands-on time, or just kind of depending on what their needs are. And also for me, it depends on whether I'm needed more in a pull-out setting, like this morning, or if I'm needed more in the classroom to help CWC. I think that kind of, it always is just about whatever the kids need in that year, whatever my audience is that year is kind of how it changes. And wherever our focus is, if I have more strugglers with behaviors, then I'm focusing on that year. If I have more strugglers in writing or reading or math, it kind of just changes with that, along with whatever the district is kind of focused on as well.
Can you recall your idea about teaching when you were a teacher?
Initially, like my why was always just about helping advocate for kids who can't advocate for themselves, and helping them find their successes so that they can be like self-advocate, whatever their strengths are, so that they can apply that into their skills and further life skills and in settings as they go on to middle school and high school. Which I feel like that still stands. It's just how I do that maybe every year is maybe a little different.
That's good. Okay, I already asked that. How does teaching children with special needs differ from teaching other children?
Maybe about the time. Well, there's the paperwork, of course,
and
like the legal commitment and obligation. But I think maybe the time, not all students learn the same. So whether they're gen ed or sped, there's still going to be certain ways that are better for certain kids than other kids, or some might need more visuals, some might need you to repeat it more times, whether they're sped or gen ed. I think maybe sometimes the amount of time that it takes to find a student's success, or to prepare the materials that you need for that student to be successful, they can need a lot more resources or accommodations or modifications. And so the time to prepare all those things definitely can be extra above and beyond than a gen ed student, but I think that it's beneficial for all students.
Yeah, for sure. What are some challenges you face in teaching special needs children?
I don't always have the answers. Even whenever I want them, or like if colleagues come to me, and I like to be a problem solver, and so I like to get to the answers or find the success, but I don't always have all the answers. And I think that's the hardest thing, is because one size does not fit all. So it's, you really have to learn your student, learn their strengths and learn their needs and what works for them, and it's ever changing. You have kids that might like easily be rewarded with candy, and some that are like, I don't care about your candy, I'm going to do this anyway. So I think that just not having all the answers always can be really exhausting or daunting.
Yeah. What are some rewards in teaching special needs children?
Oh, the successes. Like every success, no matter how big or small, is such a celebration. To see like the growth they make, not only academically, but even socially, because I think, a lot of times we deal with a lot of immaturity, and to see them grow like socially, like with their connections with peers, or the way they go about making connections with other people, is always really rewarding to just see like that timeline from like the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And sometimes I work with some kids for more than 1 year, so I might have them for multiple years, like first grade, second grade, and third grade. So to see that growth over that whole time is really, really rewarding.
What advice can you give me for teaching children with special needs in the regular education classroom?
I would say don't be afraid to try something new. Go with your instincts. If you think that a kid is struggling with something, don't be afraid to try something to change for them, to help make them successful. And even having conversations with the kids sometimes, like, was that hard for you? What was hard for you about that? What would help make that easier? I mean, sometimes younger kids can't verbalize that as well, but they can maybe be like, well, if you showed me, or I like when you did this, that really helped me. And they have a voice, and I think that there's a lot of power in their own voice. So just like listening to them and not being afraid to try something new is, I think, would be the go-to. And don't be afraid to collaborate with others too. Like, more brains is better than one. You can bounce ideas off of each other, or have somebody come in and say, this just isn't going right. Will you watch and tell me what you think could be like altered, or what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? And I think that that's always helpful too, to just not be afraid of like constructive criticism. It's, we all have room to grow, or we all might just be too overwhelmed and not see something that somebody else might see, and it'd be really helpful.
Yeah. What changes, if any, would you make to the educational system with regards to special needs children? Like funding, state assessment, etc.
Oh, that's a loaded question. Well, I don't think that funding should go away. I think that, in order to support students, I think, resources are needed.
Yeah.
And I think that we just have to be really intentional with how we're spending money, and how we're like creating and utilizing resources, whether it's another person, a well-trained person to help, or it's, actual tools or resources for them to look at or read, or manipulatives. I think also, like, I personally believe that in early childhood, those early years, pre-K does it well. They have, a teacher and 2 pairs in there, so they have a good ratio of adults to students. Yeah. But I personally believe that all early childhood, kindergarten, first, and possibly even second grade should have more than one adult in the room. I think whether there's SPED needs in there or not, I think that the early intervention would help keep the gaps closed, to possibly even put SPED out of a job, which we know that would never happen, but that would be like the dream world, to really just help kids learn and get exactly what they need. Currently, the state of Kansas is, when it comes to state assessments, is kind of overruling what we are doing in classrooms as far as like read aloud accommodations for students. So if we give a read aloud accommodation to students regularly, even on assessments that we give in the classroom, formally or informally, we've noted that on their IEPs and saying that they need a read aloud accommodation, but the state is going against that right now, saying that we have to meet all this other criteria, and I just think that's really unfair to the students, because I know that then we're assessing their listening comprehension and not really their reading comprehension, but then we're doing a disadvantage by not taking advantage of their strengths and like their listening comprehension. They could still answer a lot of questions well if it was just read aloud to them. Thank you. Did you finish your snack?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you need to wash your hands? No. Are you ready for iPad?
Yeah.
You might have 10 minutes.
But yeah, I was reading about they were trying to cut the fundings for the gifted students, I mean, that's so unfair. I mean, everyone needs it. Everyone
Yeah.
needs funding, and there's so very like limited fundings to even be cutting at that point.
Yeah, because I mean, it's still a special education.
Yeah.
And it's still resources that are needed to, yeah.
For them to strengthen their skills.
Yes. And to still be motivated in school, because sometimes you see kids that can do things well and then they, they kind of are like, well, I can already do that. And then as education gets harder, they're just so used to kind of flying by and they don't really have an interest in school because it comes so easy. And so, to challenge students, I think, is really important still, because you want to keep them motivated and excited and actually feel like they're learning something new and accomplishing instead of just flying
sitting there
by.
basically. Yeah.
So it's like you can't ignore, low, medium, or high students. And then,
Wow.
are you okay?
I hurt.
Did you bonk your side?
Okay.
But yeah, so I think that's just as important. Enrichment is just as important as
Yeah.
2 or 3 interventions.
Let me see. If you could choose another career field, would you? And can you explain why?
Well, before I went into teaching, I did cosmetology school and worked as a
Ah.
stylist for a while. But that was always like a backup plan as like to work my way through college.
Yeah.
And if suddenly it wasn't what I wanted, as a skill to fall back on. Now, even with the way things change, I mean, I couldn't imagine doing something else.
Yeah.
Like I would have to still be an advocate for kids somehow, even if it wasn't in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine doing something else, no matter how frustrating it can be sometimes.
It has its challenges.
Yes. I think that whenever like government, federal things, with the shifts that things happen, and our district is changing a lot in special education, and I don't always agree that it's what's best for kids, and I think the most we can do is use our voice
Yeah.
and provide the data that supports that with what's going on in our classrooms, and we just have to keep at it so that maybe we can still make changes so that it is what's best for kids.
Exactly. Are there any comments you wish to add to close the interview?
I don't think so. I wish you the best of luck. I think it's so exciting.
Thank you.
People passionate about teaching and always it's very needed. So
No, yeah. It started with my daughters.